structure where you kind of land on all the greatest hits of character along the way. It's a structure that's familiar to audiences, and I didn't think I'd be able to shake it. I didn't think I'd be that good at it. What happened was I like claustrophobic spaces. I like compressed periods of time. There's a ticking clock. I like things that are behind the scenes, in this case, literally behind the scenes. So I wondered if I could take all of the work that Walter had done, and if there was a way to dramatize the points of friction, and choose some of the points of friction in Steve's life, and dramatize them in this way, with just three scenes, three real-time scenes. Real-time, of course, is when 30 minutes for you in the audience is the same as 30 minutes for a character on the screen. I didn't think that there was a chance that the studio would let me do that, but they did.
So Danny, over to you, directing it and making that structure work, which you really did, and giving it a dynamic and a real dynamic force. Your work with the actors, if you could just kind of talk about that, open it up.
Yeah, no, we wanted to make the three sections as different as possible. That was the idea, and we sort of emphasised everything to do with that. So we did this weird thing where we rehearsed. Only the first bit, and then we'd sort of run it through. We'd sort of have little run-throughs where the actors could see the other actors, and then we'd film that bit, and then we stopped, which is the weird bit. The accountants can't understand about why you would stop once you get into the tunnel of filming. And we did stop, and then we rehearsed the second part. And of course, when these kind of actors, they are, once they've done one thing, like Act 1, they don't want to repeat that. They want to find a different energy, a different thing for Act 2, which is wonderful, to service the cause of trying to make each of the acts separately. And likewise, then we stopped Act 2 and rehearsed Part 3 and then shot that. And we tried to choose places in San Francisco. There were the three theatres that were very different, and the music was different in each part, so we were emphasising the difference the whole time.
And so maybe I'll open it up to the actors to talk about this question of finding the energy. It looks like it was really an exciting process for you guys to make this movie.
They always make me go first. Guys. It was so exciting. I mean, I have to be honest, it was terrifying, and I do remember all of us walking into the room on day one of rehearsal, just for a simple read-through, where you're trying out your accent and hoping to God that everyone else isn't looking at you and thinking, oh, she's shit. And I remember Michael and I sort of greeting each other, and there was a hug that I almost remember as being a little bit like sort of collapsing on one another, like.
You're like, you can let go of me now. Stop hugging me.
Yeah, very much. Okay, we're going to get. Not even a case of we're in this together. It was just a case of let's just get through this. Okay, let's just get through this. But it was amazing, and what Danny did for all of us that I think made a huge difference and was key to the process was he pulled everybody into the rehearsal room. So it wasn't just a case of who was available and what scenes we happened to be doing. Where possible, which was the majority of the time, all of the actors, no matter how big or small their roles, were in that space together. And what that did was there was no pecking order. Okay, Michael did have more to do than all of us in terms of actual lines to learn, but everybody, we were very much given these parts to play. They were ours, they became ours, and Danny gave us permission to play them the way that we wanted to, and to make all the mistakes that we needed to make and get really out of the way before we walked onto the set. Because when we walked onto the set, we had to be that well-oiled machine. We had to be ready to go. We had to have Sorkinese in our back pockets, and to really be, be ahead of ourselves. I mean, Michael and I would try things in rehearsal, And we would know straight away that it wasn't really going to work, but we'd soldier on for the 12 or 13 pages and then look at each other and go, yeah, that was absolute shit, we'll never do that on set. And so it was very necessary to have that process, really. In particular for creating the energy that was required to keep up with the pace and what Aaron had written and really had handed to us, because the rhythm and the cadence, which Michael always talks about so eloquently, and I'm going to hand this over to you in a second. The rhythm is absolutely built in, it's written in. When there's a period mark, it's there. When there's a pause, you pause, and not for too long, you know. So yeah, over to you, Fassby.
I mean, I think it was exciting.
You didn't always. My favorite moment at the very first table read, you know, each of them actually at least one point in the movie has kind of a long list of things to say, and Michael, in one of his speeches where he's saying that the 300 megahertz processor is twice the speed of a 200 Intel, this and that, just like he's saying it and just glanced up at me, he just looked at that, and on a break I went over to Jeff and I said, listen, Michael's a really big Irish guy and I think he's going to beat me up. And Jeff, who'd been doing this for 3 years already with the newsroom, just stared at me and said, I'm a really big Irish guy.
Questions? Yeah.
Good morning. Your movie was amazing. Thank you so much. My question's for Michael Fassbender. With a contemporary figure like Steve Jobs, you may have had an opinion of him, like already kind of like a perception of him going into his script. And I was wondering how it changed when you read it.
I didn't really know much about him. I mean, obviously I knew who he was, but I'm not very interested in technology. I use it pretty poorly. So everything was new to me, to be honest. I suppose the thing that really stuck with me was meeting people that knew him in his life through work. That we got the opportunity to meet John Scully, Joanna Hoffman, Steve Wozniak, and Andy Hertzfeld. And the one thing that stuck with me was how much of an impression that he made on these people. Obviously when he was alive, but you know, since he passed away, you could see that he was still very much present in their lives. And even if, you know, the relationships were difficult, there was a sadness and there was a love there for him that I felt was pretty clear. And that was something that stuck with me, you know, even though that there's, you know, all the stories about how he could be a hard taskmaster, and even with, you know, obviously the relationship with John Scully didn't end well, but I could really feel that there was a love there for the man.
I want to pose a related question to the other actors. Did you all spend time with your real-life counterparts? Yeah. So that was.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a different. That's a different kind of experience in preparing for a part.
What? Was there a
Yes,
question
the
there?
question was, did you spend time with your
Oh
real-life
yeah,
counterpart?
yeah.
Yes.
No, gosh, he opened his whole life to all of us. He came in and spoke to all of us, and then I spent 7 or 8 hours with him just chatting about things. And later on in the process, he invited me out to Palo Alto, and we got to visit his house, meet his wife, went out to have food, and just talked about Steve and talked about his experience working with him, and the love that they had for each other, and the mutual respect, and how challenging perhaps it might have been, you know, him wanting to stay around Apple a little longer, but honestly, Steve, not necessarily having anything in particular he wanted Annie to work on, and he went out and started other companies of his own, and but Steve would constantly check in with him periodically, and yeah, he couldn't have been kinder to me, and he was really generous with his time, and heard from him today, which was delightful. You know, he remained for Steve sort of a moral center in a life that seemed quite complicated, you know, for Mr. Jobs, I think, and he was always there for him to check in with, and he would periodically just show up on his doorstep.
Hi, congratulations on the wonderful film. I first want to say hi to Kate Winslet, the wonderful, beautiful.
Hi. How you doing?
I fell in love with 16 years ago. And
Are you still in love with me? Oh, I'm so pleased.
and my question is for Danny, Seth, Michael, and others as well. Great film, but Steve is so iconic. A lot of us know him. You make historical films or films about people. People may not know them. We have a perception of Steve. So as a filmmaker, how important do you think it is for you to get it right, aesthetically, look-wise, or do you think it's more important to bring the story, bring the meaning behind the person? And as an actor, Michael said, you said you got to meet the guy. What do you think? I mean, was it more important to get the look and feel right, because that's what a lot of people have done with some other films, or was it more important to get the person right or get the message right, as an actor and as a filmmaker?
You go. What you'll say is smarter. Go.
What was interesting is that obviously there's this tension, because you've got this. Our knowledge of him, a lot of it is to do with his public performances, wasn't it? And what was wonderful about Aaron's idea is there was this public sense, and you've all been told it's set at 3 product launches. So your mind immediately goes to that, and those images on YouTube, and of course you never go on stage, or barely at all until the very end. And because it was always behind the scenes, and that's a wonderful metaphor for it, really, that it was behind the scenes, and it was behind what you might think you understand, you know. And it was underwater, it was beneath the surface, if you like, I suppose. So that helped us a lot, and we were always very insistent with everyone from the beginning that it wasn't about being a look-alike, and it wasn't about physical mannerisms. You know, they weren't the driving force behind it. It was actually, it's Shakespearean, really. It's actually that this is a historical figure, and a key one for us in our generation, and there were facts that were true, and a lot of stuff that was dispensed with as well, as we pursued the man, really, in his relationship with these other people.
Yeah, exactly. To me, exactly. My job first and foremost was making my boss, who was Danny, happy. You know, Woz wasn't paying me, but you know, I was hired by these guys, and so they were the ones who I needed to please. And if that happened to mean, if they were like, forget everything about Woz, disregard everything about him, it's better for the movie, I would have been like, that's totally cool with me, because I don't want to get fired, and Woz can't fire me. So that was really my goal. I mean, I think in the end, Woz is actually very happy, which is nice. And I'm happy that Steve Wozniak doesn't hate me, because that would be terrible. And so I think in the end, accuracy isn't necessarily creatively the thing that portrays someone the best. You know, when I think of Marilyn Monroe, the picture I think of her, she has pink skin and yellow hair and, you know, green lips, and that to me is Marilyn Monroe in a lot of ways, and it looks nothing like what she actually looks like. As far as I know, I never met her, but I don't think she had pink hair. So I think it's an artist's, you know, take on someone. In many ways is just as valid as informing you as to what they may be actually like, although it, in and of itself, may be absolutely nothing like what they may be like.
And I studied Ashton Kutcher.
I did too, weirdly, which, yeah.